Because I love
Looks like our friends were about.
Our story ignites in 1926. We meet Joe, an Irish-American veteran who fought for America in World War I. His father was the captain of the Boston Police, so Joe grew up knowing the law, but things changed after the war. Joe needed money, and badly. So, he turned to small-time theft. One day, a friend told him about a rich stakes gambling game. Joe, with two friends, agreed to rob the place, aiming for a massive score. What he didn't know was that he was robbing the Irish Mafia. And trust me, they don't stay quiet. Quickly, Joe was tracked down by Albert, the Irish Mafia boss. The moment Joe saw him, he thought his life was over. But Albert said, "Do you know why you're still alive? Because you're Irish. You're not fully American." Albert explained that he was fighting a massive gang war against the Italian Mafia across Boston. He needed Irish people, and he saw Joe's ruthlessness during the robbery. Albert spared Joe's life, ordering him to work for him that very day. Joe had no choice. Refusal meant certain death. It was a second chance at life, and he seized it. He started working for Albert, and the money flowed endlessly. Albert ruled with guards and countless mistresses. But among them was one woman, Emma. From the moment Joe saw her, he was hooked, and Emma felt the same way. They soon became intimately involved, playing with fire. They knew Albert would kill them both the day he found out. But Joe always tracked Albert's movements. Whenever the boss left Boston, Joe took Emma out for dinner. One night while they were eating, Joe's father, Thomas, the police captain, found them. Thomas begged Joe to leave this life and earn an honest living. Joe refused to listen, and Thomas left. Soon after, Joe received an invitation from Masso, the head of the Italian Mafia. Masso laid out two clear options. Option 1. Kill his boss Albert and start working for the Italians. Masso promised double the money and riches. Option 2. Masso tells Albert that Joe is sleeping with his girl, and Albert kills both Joe and Emma. Joe, fearless as ever, told Masso he wouldn't kill Albert. He left, knowing Albert would soon find out everything. Joe knew they had to leave Boston, and fast. He told Emma they were leaving, but first, he needed money. He called his old friends and planned a robbery on the biggest bank in Boston. But as they exited, the police descended. The shooting was insane, alerting police all over the city. Bullets flew everywhere. Joe told his companions they had to split up in 3 different cars to escape the massive police presence. As one car approached Joe's, they crashed. 3 police officers were instantly killed in the explosion. Joe ran home and hid, terrified. The next day, the newspaper confirmed the disaster. The news was everywhere, and a sketch of the 3 robbers was printed. Joe secretly went to Albert's party. He saw Emma and signaled for them to run. That's when it hit him. Emma had betrayed him. She had already met with Albert. Albert's men grabbed Joe and began beating him. Albert came over to Emma and said, "I knew about you too. Now I will kill you." Albert's men dragged Joe out to kill him. But before the execution, Joe's father, Thomas, arrived with the entire police force. Seeing Thomas, Albert went inside, not killing Joe. Thomas told his son he was charged with robbery and murder and was going to jail for a very long time. Thomas drove away, and the remaining officers brutally beat Joe. A few days later, Joe woke up in a hospital. Thomas visited him, criticizing Joe for supporting bad people and falling in love with a bad girl. Thomas revealed that Albert never forgives. He had killed Emma mercilessly. Thomas also learned that one of Joe's companions was killed during the attempt to catch them, but the other one escaped. Thomas promised to do what he could when Joe's case came up. Thomas went straight to the judge. He blackmailed the judge by exposing his corrupt dealings, all to save Joe from the death penalty. Thomas pinned the murder of the 3 police officers on Joe's dead companion. When the case was heard, Joe was sentenced to only 3.5 years. After 3.5 years, Joe walked free from jail forever. His freedom was immediately met with devastating news. His father, the man who saved him, had died of a heart attack. Joe was heartbroken, knowing he was only alive because of his father's sacrifice. But Joe hadn't forgotten the past. He truly loved Emma, and Albert killed her. Joe swore to kill Albert, no matter the cost. To do this, he needed muscle, so he immediately joined the Italian gang, becoming a member of Masso's crew. Masso told Joe that Albert had left Boston because of the heat, but he was still running a massive liquor business from Florida. Since the government had shut down all liquor sales, Masso wanted Joe to go to Florida, set up the Italian gang's liquor business, and make it huge. Joe left Boston and reached Florida. He met his old partner who survived the shootout, a man named Dion. Dion explained the local trade. Liquor came in through an underground tunnel. Joe immediately needed shipping access. They went to a shipping man and threatened him to work for them. But the man panicked and ran out of the city. Next, Joe met a businessman named Esteban, who had a sister named Graciela. It turned out their liquor was the best in Florida. Joe struck a huge deal. He would take the biggest consignment from them every month. First, Graciela took them to see the factory. Joe was delighted to find the factory situated strategically in the middle of a river. Joe's business exploded. He started sending liquor not only across Florida but to other states, too. Albert's business was now suffering. Joe sent commission back to Masso, ensuring he had the Italian boss's full support. Albert went mad and repeatedly tried to attack Joe. But Joe was no amateur anymore. He had a full team, and they killed every attacker. Joe became a big deal, even attracting the attention of the police chief, Irwin. Joe knew he couldn't buy Irwin. He was honest. Irwin told Joe he knew he could never stop the illegal liquor business entirely. He offered a deal: do your business, but there must be no violence, and no innocent person should be killed. Joe agreed. Irwin's daughter, Loretta, was introduced to everyone. She was heading to Hollywood to become an actress. Joe and Dion congratulated her warmly. With the police chief supporting him, Joe's business grew rapidly. During this time, Joe and Graciela fell in love, and soon their relationship became public. But not everyone approved. A powerful extremist group called the Triple K operated in Joe's territory. They knew Joe sold liquor across all communities, and they despised his inclusive approach. The group threatened him: stop doing business with everyone, or they would destroy him. Joe wanted no violence, so he went straight to the police station and told Irwin everything. Irwin arranged a meeting with a man named R.D. Joe offered R.D. 20% of his profits in exchange for peace. But R.D. grew furious. He revealed that he knew Joe had quietly married Graciela. R.D. sneered: I despise men like you who cross boundaries and build partnerships with people we reject. Now watch how we drive you out of this city. Soon, R.D.'s men stormed Joe's bar. They attacked innocent patrons and set the entire place ablaze. Chaos erupted everywhere. Still hoping to avoid bloodshed, Joe tried meeting another Triple K member, offering money to stop the war. But that man was enraged too, and he threatened Joe. At that moment, Dion snapped. He pulled the trigger and ended it. Joe went to Irwin's house, telling him he had no choice left but to take down R.D. He knew R.D. was Irwin's brother-in-law and demanded his location to end the war. Irwin refused. R.D. was family. Joe then revealed photos of Loretta. He exposed how people in Hollywood had drugged her and forced her into shameful films. Joe warned, if you don't give me R.D.'s location, these pictures will be in tomorrow's newspaper, and your name will be ruined. Irwin broke down in tears. Finally, he admitted R.D. would soon come to meet Joe. That night, R.D. arrived with a guard. Joe tried one last deal, pointing to a massive building under construction. This will be a casino, he said. Join me, and I'll give you a share. End the war. But R.D. refused and began insulting Graciela. Joe snapped. He pulled his gun and shot R.D. Dion's men quickly killed R.D.'s guard. But as Dion rushed to Joe, he saw Joe had been hit. He carried him straight to the hospital. News of R.D.'s death spread like wildfire. The extremist group prepared to strike back. Dion deployed his men across the city. When the attackers came, Dion's crew struck first, hunting them down one by one. They knew the group would never let Joe live. In a single night, almost the entire organization was wiped out. Joe emerged from the hospital into peace. For the first time, there was no one left to stop him. Time passed, and by 1932, Joe received a message from Masso. Alcohol was about to become legal. Once legal, profits would vanish. Masso wanted Joe to run drugs instead. Joe refused. I won't deal in drugs here. He had a better plan: the casino. Once built, the wealthiest people would flock to gamble, making fortunes legally, with no police interference. Masso sent his son Digger to inspect. Seeing the construction, Digger was impressed. He agreed Joe's plan was brilliant. Meanwhile, Loretta had left her troubled past behind and was living with her father. She became deeply religious, delivering powerful sermons at church. Soon, she was famous, her words printed in newspapers across the city. One day, she declared that alcohol and gambling were destroying society. The speech caused a sensation. Suddenly, everyone judged Joe for profiting from both. Investors pulled out of the casino. Masso heard the news and ordered Joe, "Remove that girl immediately." But Joe refused. "Too many wrongs have already happened to her," he said. Instead, he went to speak with Loretta. She told him she had no personal issue with him, she was simply doing God's work. She admitted Joe's men had saved her life, but insisted she could never support wrongdoing. Later, Joe met Loretta again. This time, she confessed she didn't truly trust God and was struggling mentally. She revealed that her sermons were only to please her father, who believed she was on the right path. Not long after, Dion brought tragic news. Loretta, overwhelmed, had taken her own life. Grief-stricken, Joe was summoned to meet Masso at a hotel. Dion, suspicious, warned him. Masso's men were everywhere, and Masso was furious. The casino project had been stopped, Joe had refused the drug trade, and Masso had no use for him anymore. Dion feared Masso would have Joe killed. Joe insisted otherwise. Masso still needed his liquor profits. At the hotel, Dion was blocked outside while Joe was taken in. Masso wasted no time. "I'm taking over Florida," he declared. "My son will run the drug business." Joe argued. "Your son knows nothing. He'll fail." Masso smirked. "I know. That's why I have a new partner." Albert walked in. Masso and Albert had struck a deal to rule Florida together. Albert pointed a gun at Joe. "I've always wanted to kill you. Today, that day has come." But outside, Dion was ready. His men, hidden in the basement, stormed the floor, unleashing gunfire. Bullets flew everywhere. Masso fled with his son. Joe seized a gun and shot Albert dead. Dion's men wiped out nearly all of Masso's crew. The few survivors fled in terror. Joe chased Masso. Realizing escape was impossible, Masso locked himself in a room, leaving his son and guards outside. But inside, he froze. Joe was already there, gun in hand. Joe stepped forward slowly. "My men killed your son. Now it's your turn." With that, Joe pulled the trigger. Masso was dead. Joe walked out. Dion told him he had just taken down two of the biggest mafia bosses, the heads of the Irish and Italian mobs. Joe was now the most powerful man alive, the one everyone would bow to. But Joe was finished. "I don't want anything anymore. I'm leaving this life of crime." He handed his gun to Dion, declaring him the new boss. Joe abandoned everything, taking Graciela to Miami. Together they had a son, and for a while, life was finally happy. But one day, Irwin stormed in with a gun, convinced Joe was responsible for his family's downfall. He opened fire blindly. Joe shot Irwin in self-defense. But when he stepped inside, he saw Graciela had been hit. She was gone. Shattered, Joe realized his sins had punished the one he loved most. Now alone with his son, he transformed his life. He opened charities to help the poor and devoted himself to raising his boy. One evening, while watching a movie together, his son turned to him and said, "When I grow up, I want to be a policeman." Joe smiled. And with that, the movie ends. So, friends, if you enjoyed this deep dive into cinema, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Stay safe, and keep watching Cinemaned.